Hello, folks. We're back again today, this week, on what we normally do every Sunday, every weekend on interactive solution. And today's talk show is dealing with the issue of colonialism and its ongoing impact on cultural identity and expression. Colonialism, as we all know, is a process. It's a powerful process that has existed over the years through which countries take over the political, economic, and cultural processes of other countries and bring in their own rule in place of the indigenous rule. It's something that has happened over the years, and almost every country of the world has, at one time or the other, been colonized. But when we are talking about colonialism in recent times, we are referring to the takeover of the political process of a country or countries that started from around the 15th century down to the present times. So that is the colonialism that is of moment and the thing that we want to talk about today. The impact and it's the ongoing impact of such exercise up till today. And this involved mainly African nations and some of the Caribbean countries. And this takeover of their political process, economic and social and cultural processes had been engineered and executed by the most of these European nations. So the impact is still ongoing, and I want to have a look at some of those and how they continue to affect the present generation and even going forward. So with me, as always, we're going to, as briefly as we can and as engaging as we can, look into this issue to see how they affect you, how they affect me, and with the mind to understand how we deal with these issues, with these impacts, and how to ameliorate, if possible, their effect on our culture and the way we live. So, with me, as always, are the people you know well, and I want to bring them in as they come. And I have to bring in Mr. Nadi, who is already in the corridor. We have Kichi Jackie joining us too from her location, Maloney to also be part of the show. So once they come in, we start cracking on we try to crack the kernel with the mind to understanding how these things have happened, their effects and their ongoing effect and impact in the way we live. And so many of us have left countries, we have left regions, we have left families to transit to other places. This could have been as a result of the effect of not colonialism now, but new colonialism. And I want to look at all these things and try to bring them in perspective with the intent to understand what we have done and what we are doing and what we can do to try to ameliorate or mitigate the effect, the adverse effect of colonialism. The network is playing up as usual, but I hope we are going to get over it. Mr. Nadi, if you can hear me, please just make a little shift. I'll try to bring you on, but it's telling me that your network is unstable. Hello, Chi, I'm bringing you in now. Hello, Jack, you're welcome to today's show.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, it's good to have you on today. I hope you've had a wonderful week, the
Yeah.
previous week. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, it's good to have you on. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to bring in Mr. Nadi so that at least we can have somebody to dwell with. Mr. Nadi, your network is not stable. Hello, Chi, are you there? Your network is tripping, Chief. Hello,
Is it?
Jack.
Yeah.
Your network tripped. Yeah, I
I
could
don't
see
know
that
why
you
I
just.
got fun. Well, it should be okay now.
Yeah, I think it's okay now.
Yeah.
Mr. Nadi is saying there's a technical issue with your location. I think you need to make a shift a little bit, take a little bit dressing. I don't think your network is strong enough to allow me to bring you in. So, Chi, while will you exercise patience while they come? I'd like to know how your day has been, or your week rather.
My okay, my week has been good, it's just been working, and that's all you do,
Yeah, that's all you do
cooking.
here. That's all
I'm
we do
telling
here. You
you,
come in.
yeah,
Yeah, you come in. It's only work, 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 and then
that's it,
you know,
so,
there's
and then
there's
just,
nothing. There's no
yeah,
more. There's no life except to go to
uh,
work and come back.
exactly,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
when you have time to go away, you go away, but yeah,
yeah.
so,
William Mary, it's
yeah.
good to have you on.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's good to have you on.
just
Mr.
give me a
Nadi is
second.
experience. Yeah, Mr. Nadi is experiencing some glitches, and I don't know, but I think we just have to start while we expect that it will come on soon. So I'd like
For some
to
reason, I
ask you.
can't see you guys' videos, but it's fine.
Yeah, it's something that we've been trying to deal with for some time now, and the I don't know. Before we used to see ourselves, but of recent some things happened. Mr. Nadi, you're welcome.
The tea.
Yeah, it was good to have you on, and I think the quartet is complete now, so we can get
Absolutely,
cracking.
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
I think
Woman
we
Ben
are going
Salah,
to have
allow
to.
me to salute my big brother.
Yeah, yeah, you go ahead and
I
salute.
greet, brother. Woman Ben
Yeah,
Salah. I greet. One love. Allah,
yeah,
brother. One
yeah,
love, I greet. Mm.
yeah. I think we just have to get cracking. And gentlemen and lady, I'm going to be interrupting you as often as I can so that we can bring this thing in under 1 hour. I hope we'll just have to understand that
Yeah, that would be good.
we have to put it down, yeah, in under 1 hour. So, Mr. Nadi, I like to ask you, I like to throw the first question at you. The topic is, what are the legacies of colonialism? What are the
Mm.
legacies of colonialism and its ongoing impact on cultural identity and expression? This is something that has to do with most migrants and most people of African nationalities. So I think we are not under any illusion that colonialism has dealt with African countries or the African continent, both good and bad. But it depends on how one sees it. So we want to look at.
Including in Britain, the UK, and also the
Yeah,
US.
yeah. I know that all those ones were one time colonized, but want to look at what has been happening from the 15th centuries downwards. So
Mm.
that's the angle we are looking at it now. So, Mr. Nadi, I'd like to ask you what colonialism. What do you understand colonialism? What does it really mean?
Um, well, the tea. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for this another day to have a chat about I think we've done a bit closer analysis about things that are related to colonialism and all of that. And I think you've done the due diligence in your
yeah, I think.
introductory statement. You have actually defined what it actually means. Is in a short terms, it means a power that is bigger, a superior power, using this might or this military or whatever superiority that you can define and it can be used for to subdue, I mean, subordinates or more inferior, if I'll use the word, but that's not the right word to use anyways. But it's more about superior power, both physical, military, economically, all of that. And a good thing that you mentioned, and our brother Yemeri have also pointed out as well, that this there's no single country in the world that haven't experienced colonialism. It's been a long history of long history antecedents that have happened starting from the days that we read in the Bible about the Babylonians. You know, when they said Mele Mele Tafla Berasi is part of colonialism, when the Babylonians were literally overshadowing every other part of the world where their decision, and it can stretch it back to even the time of our Lord Jesus when he came. When you read in the Bible where they say that the Roman empires were having governors in Israel and Palestine and all of that. So it's a long history, but bringing it back to the 19th or 20th century that we are in today, as we the Africans seems to be having all the punches of the latest one, because I think this conversation we pull more weight not from what had happened in the past, but what is happening now, because a lot of people tends to forget that colonialism is not just the people being physically present in a certain domain against the other. That as it stands now, there are still some segments of this colonialism that is even subtly going on in most of our African continent. We hear about the French, how they overshadow most of these Eastern Africans, and that even their central banks have got they derive their powers from French. You've heard about political. It was even Jonathan in one of his memos was discussing how the Americans, Obama, and all of that, the stagnant power they have got, or the stagnant influence that they had over the elections in Nigeria. So that actually open up a bigger picture that this colonialism, if we understand, if we're understanding colonialism from the context of what I've described what colonialism is, and anybody can go and make a research about that. So it literally means being a superior power, trying to interfere in other people's affair. And this is something that you don't need to go far away to observe these things happening every day. You can hear the American power on a daily basis trying to describe that this and that should happen and what not to be happening in another man's country. But they won't allow the same thing in their own country. That is another section, another faction of colonialism. So it mustn't be a physical presence of the dominant power to be controlling the affairs of that. Some of these things can happen in transfer, which is what a lot will defer as imperialism and all of that. So thank you, Mr. T, for the question. I think if that answers.
I think we are no more talking about colonialism now. It is either we are talking about neo-colonialism or imperialism, which the question tries to, the topic tries to define. That is the legacies of colonialism. And I think neo-colonialism, imperialism, and all those are the part of the legacies of colonialism. And, going forward, the effect still remains with us. So that is actually what we are looking at today. And I hope our audience will, try to be part of it by giving us some contribution or questions to help point to the roadmap, so that we we can always carry one another along in this discussion. Well, Mary, I'd like to ask you, how did the colonial encounter define the identity of former colonies? These encounter with all these Western powers. How did this colonial encounter, redefine our identity?
Well, anyway, I think I appreciate the question a lot, and then just want to say thank you to Sammy and thank you to the lady on the forum.
The lady is Jack. The lady is Jack.
Jack. Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
Jack, for being with us. And I just want to say I appreciate the question, but I just want a little bit of clarity on the question. You're talking about how our encounter with colonization redefined our culture. Is that what you mean?
How it redefined our identity, how we see ourselves.
Okay.
That's our cultural identity, how we see ourselves. Yeah.
I think we just like our brother has succinctly mentioned, we also have to acknowledge the good and bad sides of colonization. It's not just about saying that we were colonized or other countries were colonized, and then colonization has got nothing beneficial. I mean, nothing too good other than subtle and potential harm. But also, we can also acknowledge some kind of good things, good legacies of colonization in terms of a school. I'm trying to give it a little bit of a backdrop so we can understand how this cultural identity tend to form a bit of hybrid identity that we're using, and we normally use a combination of Western ideal and African ancestral roots. But also, before I take off, the interference our brother mentioned is also something nice to remember about colonization, because in interference we also have an additional concept, which is expansion, which is already happening in Ukraine. Let's not just forget, because when I say it's not just about Africa, because we need to be decolonizing our mind first. If we decolonize our mind, we can also raise a collective voice, articulate a collective voice based on unity and based on love. But then, if we look at the processes of colonizing, and then the tools, the main reason of colonization is just through they're doing it through political, economic, and cultural for economic, political, and cultural reasons. That's why somebody will stand up somewhere and say, I just want to colonize somebody. And then when somebody's colonized in terms of political alignment, and in terms of economic alignment, and in terms of also cultural idiosyncrasies, what else is remaining? Without a political system, without a good political system, without a good cultural system, without an economic system, how do we exist? We don't even exist. But people don't tend to think deeply about what's actually going on and how we can make amendments. Like I will continue to start by, there is need to start decolonizing our minds to be able to be free from colonization, because we are still entangled a lot more with what colonization has left. But if we look at the infrastructural side, of colonization, what it has brought, if you look at the education we promote, this education has also help us to promote our cultural heritage, even in the global stage. Think about the Afrobeat things that we're doing, and also the Nollywood things. It's also something that has to be a tinge of cultural, a bit of cultural identity between two countries and two continents. And if we're looking at what these things have done, and we look at also the roads, the legacies of what do you call it? The legacies of medical knowledge, and we also look at the healthcare system they've left for us, and also we look at the deposit of the churches and mosques. These are also the benefits we've gotten from colonization, not just about the bad side of it, because we know that the bad side of it is enormous. But when we narrow it down to those little bit of the benefits and advantages they've left for us, then we can also see that these things are what is actually affecting our cultural identity. And if we define cultural identity as this concept that can be seen as a collective practices, that something that shapes our practices, our beliefs, our value system, and our history, our language, and our traditional system that is shaped by this individual and collective sense of belonging, and then our uniqueness. We can begin to say that when something disrupts those things in a natural state, we are bound to have a conflict, a crisis of identity, because it's not so easy to be adapting and also transmitting generational values from one generation to the other, about something that belongs to all the society, without even looking at what we can do to better that situation. So cultural identity left. I mean, the colonization left all these things. But why are we having problems in the judiciary system, for example, in our country? It's because of the legal system they've bequeathed for us as a legacy, and then we haven't even done anything to change it. That's why I said we have to start decolonizing our mind. In decolonizing our mind, we can forge a through path and find the best way to walk around what is hovering over us, and then be able to create a better identity that can give us a sense of direction and a sense of belonging. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And as a matter of fact, many people have argued that there is nothing, no positives can be taken from, because every country or every region, every nationality, they were moving along the trajectory of development. No society was stagnant, as a matter of fact, until when that imposition came. You disrupted a whole lot of things and imposed something that was entirely new. But then we'll allow you guys and possibly those in the audience to help us,
Well, sorry,
navigate some of these
just
questions.
the button. Although that some people will argue that there's nothing positive about, but I normally say begin to look at something from the positive side before you begin to look from the other side of the negative, because even though the
Yeah, it's
negative,
always there are
the
two sides
negative,
to a coin. You
yeah,
can either start from the negative or you
the
start from the
the
positive.
the
So
negative can outweigh the positive, but there is still some deposits of positives of colonization. Because remember, we were sitting on the oil for centuries, for years. We never knew that we have oil until somebody tapped or at the back of our forefathers and said, "Look, gentlemen, you've got oil." But I have to stop here to let all the people talk. Thank you so much.
thank you very much, Onyemere. Jackie. I want to come to you quickly with this question, and then it has to do with the hierarchical nature of this imposition. In what ways do you think the colonial powers imposed, cultural, their imposed cultural hierarchy? How do they persist up to today? Those things that they impose on us, can you tell us in what ways they still persist in our
Okay.
climes up till today?
Okay, so thank you to the two speakers, and just want to mention a little bit of some of the things they say. I know that Mary said that there's positive side. Unfortunately, when you look at colonialism, we normally look at the negative side, because I believe that when you go to someone else's country, take over, it's a negative thing. So some of the thing I look at is the language. So most of the colonized country has lost its languages. So when
Yeah.
they lose their language, it's replaced by Europe, it's replaced by English language, it's replaced by Spanish, it's replaced by a lot of other things that, if you, for example, if you come to England, you're speaking English, no one questions it. But if they go to, if English people go to, let's say, Nigeria, and they cannot speak one of its languages, no one sees it as strange. So why would the English people see people coming here and can't speak English as strange? Maybe the Bengalis, the Asians, the those people. So
Yeah.
that's one of the bad things that I believe that they colonize. Everyone should be able to, yes, know a common language where you have to communicate with the rest of the world, but you should still not be looked at strangely if you're not speaking that language. There was an incident. A Spanish lady, she went to a shop in America. She was speaking in Spanish. This white lady American comes to her and say, "Why are you speaking that language? This is not allowed in America. Go back to your country." I mean, who gave her the right to say that? So
Yeah.
this is one of the things that colonization caused, because if not, who said that they can speak their language and understand English as well? Another thing is about the economy. So when the colonizers go to another country, they kind of restructure the economies, sometimes to the good, sometimes to the bad. But when they restructure it, they changed all the economies. Like, so most of the things we do, we're looking at the European markets. We're going to China to buy stuff. We're going to everywhere but Nigeria to buy stuff, because we believe that outside is more important. He gave us that mentality to say that we cannot, I mean, it's good in Aba, whatever they have made in Aba, which is, fake copy of everything. So why can we not support our own instead of looking at the, China or whatever and say, okay, this is great because it's from there. And the last thing what I will look at is the racial and ethnic hierarchy. So even in Nigeria or some black countries, they believe that darker skinned people are worse off than, lighter skinned brown black people, because that's the thing that the colonizers have put to them. So back in the day, there used to be this movie, which is a true life story of Passing. So Passing looks at the mixed race people. Their dad might be black, their mom is white, but they happen to be more of white side. So they totally deny their black side, because when they say they are white, fully white, they get so much benefits of being, getting so much benefits of that white. So, I mean, this is some of the things that the colonization, the slave trade, and all those things have caused. We have become like, oh, I need to bleach my skin to be white. I need to do this to be more accepted. I mean, why would you do that? So I think, so the point is like the colonized has had a bad effect or effect on all the countries they have colonized. I personally don't see any good points of them colonizing the countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. I think I'm on the same chapter of this book with you, because when you have turned everything upside down in a situation where one is just a producer of raw materials, and you know that raw materials are cheaper, and then one is refining, adding value. The obvious is that by the time those things you grew initially and sent over comes back to you, you are paying dearly,
Exactly.
much more than the man who bought it from you. This
Exactly.
economic imperialism still persists up till today, and that is one of the legacies and impacts of colonialism in Africa. Mr. Nadi, I'd like you to speak to this question of colonialism and how it reshaped, and I think it's still touching our religion. Jack talked about the language. I think you take a go at possibly the religion and then the culture of our people. How do you think colonialism has really reshaped, the mode of worship, and then the way we do some things like New Yam Festival, marriages, and burials, and all those things? You know, can you speak to that question, please?
Well, thank you, DT, thank you, Jack, for. I think that was a very that's an eloquent digestion of the topic of what the question that you've been asked. I'm quite impressed. Mr. T, I don't think I'm the right man for you to ask this question, but I have a go at it because you obviously know my stance with religious and its connotations. Just to add a little bit, just to add to what my brother Emily said. I was reading a story about in China when the Americans and the Western civilization intended to colonize China. If you go and read that story, it's quite an interesting story as well. They call it the century of humiliation, and that is actually what spurs I think it's 1945 or thereabouts, the economic, the aggressive economic development in China is part of that wave that spares that up. Because the Chinese were having a very unbalanced scale of what I call it, economic activities with the West, where the West will come in, take their tea, take everything, take literally everything, and give them little but nothing. And they wanted to fight back. The White was able to squash them straight away. And that is what starts spurring the Chinese to say, no, there is no fairness in this. There is no fairness in somebody, just like there is no fairness in what the agitation that we are seeing in Western Europeans today, where they want to send all of us back because they don't want us to bring our culture to them, because they know that this culture is the value, is the currency. This is what builds the products, your language, your culture, your dressing, your food. This is that economic activities. There is nothing else. When you bring it and that influences theirs, what actually that translates into is them becoming poorer and you becoming richer. So they don't want you to bring it. But this is something that have been forced on other people for years. This is what they have enforced. And sorry, I don't want to mix words, but that is what I will look at and think there is fairness in it. There is no fairness. Absolutely no fairness. If it is fair, they should allow us to do the same. I should come to the United Kingdom with my tradition and culture and domain and enforce it on a British person and see how it works. And let me even tell you, let me give you a bit background to this. And it's very much, I don't know the right word to use. But I was having a conversation with somebody. I asked them a simple question. And I'll give you just a slight background for you to make a big picture of what I'm trying to explain. Some of these things that you see as human values, human culture, human tradition is a kind of a transaction of experiences, both good and bad, that have been going on for years, and to a certain level that people have started learning the pattern of those transactions. And I'll give you an instance. I was challenging one of my religious friends. I said to him, do you actually think that if our political representatives are meant to swear oaths with Abara one, do you ever think that they will go in there and start messing up? He said no. I said, you know why? He couldn't answer it. And this is why I ask people, critically make researches and invest in your brains. That is the only way we can survive this mayhem. Even though I don't believe there's no potent in those banana and Otenigwe, because that is the reason why the Western country was able to come and abolish it straight away, because there was no potent. But then try to tell you what is the subtle or the hidden potent in those things, these experiences, these knowledges, because these are things that have been happening over the years, and people are thinking that this thing works. People have an experience, but both on what do I call it? What's the right word to use? Antecedents that have happened over the years. These are things that have been protected by certain, what do I call it? I call them, what's the right words to use? Pioneers of tradition. Protects these things over the years. This is the reason why, because everybody is now having a common language in this concept that this thing works. Nobody goes in there. Once you swear an oath with those things, you end up not doing those things, because you mentally, because how these things work, how human brain works, it works from what it is inside, what is inside them. It processes what is inside them. If you have a memory that this place kills people, when you go there, you are more careful because you know it kills. So because of this bank of knowledge and experience, when people go into government, they don't stay out. And this is what we have. For the reason of trying to adapt to this to the world that we're still trying to adapt up to date, we let go of all of these virtues. And I want to give you more points to that. You know, when you mentioned that we didn't know there are oils beneath the ground, that is a good point. But the question I ask you today, how many of us in Nigeria are able to extract those oil today? How many of us? People come from India to extract the same oil. After how many years of the knowledge? What's the point of knowledge if it does not change the situation? That the Western people came and exploited the system. The world is beneath us without us not even being a participant of the knowledge. And that is very troublesome. So,
Mr. Nadi, you can round off. We can, yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so
you can just round up. Don't stop being emotional. But I
I'm not
understand.
going to, sorry about that. So
Bring it home. Bring it
what I'm
home.
trying to explain is that I'm not going to be on any. I'm not being on any side. What I'm just trying to explain to you is that if you understand the code of this value and tradition, how this translate to tangibles, how those translate is. I mentioned to you the other day that the English language is worth over 16 billion, and why? This is why they push it everywhere they go, because they know that this is substance. This is economic activities. Because when more people speak English, they will have a lot of people who want to know English. And to know this English, people need to teach them. And those who are teaching them are getting paid. And when they're getting paid, it adds to their GDP. And when it gets to their GDP, it adds to their purchasing power. That is how country become rich. It is not by miracle. It's not by all those blah, 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 blah. If you let go of those values, if you let go of these traditions and culture, you will remember. That is the difference between us and the Indians. The Americans, the British people were in India for 250 years. 250 years. They took over everything. They took over their gold and their diamond. But what they didn't take over from them is their tradition. The Indians persistently resist that you can take my life, you can take everything, but you see, this is my tradition, because this is a folder of experience, a virtuous experience over the years that our forefathers have. Because if we let go of this, our children, our great grandchildren, we repeat the same mistakes that our great grandfather made. So I'll stop it there, Mr. T.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And in other words, what you're saying is that, tradition, culture, and tradition is the real gold mine, and not just
Of course, this
the
is where
gold mine on the
very,
ground, and all
Mr.
these
T,
other
Mr. T,
resources.
Mr.
Yeah.
T,
Can I add something?
No. Let me just
Yeah, I'm coming
put
to
one
you,
word.
Onyemere. Just let him finish. I'll
I'll
to
put
you.
one word to you.
Okay.
If you tell me
Okay.
one thing, if you tell me one single thing that translates to economic activity, and I will not tell you how that is related to those people's culture. One single thing, even the culture of blacksmith that I mentioned to you in Oka. If I go back and I tell you stories how that is related to the Oka tradition and culture.
Yeah.
They have all link, because this is culture, is this way of you, the way you see things, the way your life is, what actually builds your mental cycle.
Yeah.
That is
Thank you very
what
much.
is inculcated in this culture. Thank you, Mr. T.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you very much, Sam. And Onyemere, I'm coming to you, and probably an extension of the same question, and that is on socials and the culture,
Yeah.
cultural development of a people going forward. Let
Yeah.
us talk, may probably pay little attention to what had happened before. But
Yeah.
culture, the socials, and then the cultural makeup of a people is a dynamic thing. It's not something that is
It's not static. Yeah.
yeah, it's not static. No, how do you think that this colonialism, neo-colonialism, imperialism has impacted the development of our culture and our social, the social aspect of our lives?
Like I said before, I just want to highlight things that will help us to understand. I started by saying that we need to decolonize our mind. That's the first step. Because if we don't decolonize our mind, we can never move forward. I don't think, if we look at the instrument of colonization, I mentioned before that it's through politics, it's through culture, and it's through economy. So that somebody colonized you, it's bad because colonization is deeply painful and divisive, but also it encourages this ongoing inequalities and has a devastating impact and negative impact on our cultural identity. Agreed. I was in the classroom. I've said this before. I was in the classroom, and this lecture was recorded, and then the professor was making reference to Obasanjo and Okonjo Iweala as slaves. You know, because there's a way they sort of make these things. I stopped the class. I stopped the classroom. It was recorded. I brought. I'm saying it to you now, and as this thing is recorded, other people are going to hear it. The British people were also enslaved. This is not something that we use as a rocket science or to weaponize against anyone. No, it is just about understanding the concept of what we're talking about. Our question is based on the legacy of colonization and its ongoing impact. Yes, it has bad impact, but then we need to decolonize our mind. When I was asking the professor questions, she couldn't answer, and she started crying. I said, if I can pay to study, I have the legal right to ask questions. And what I'm telling you today is that when you mention Jack, I beg to disagree that there's anything like black anybody. I know that it's going to take time for people to get to assimilate this. We are Africans and we are special people. And as Africans, we live to be Africans until we die. And we're not black. Because one of the arguments I put forward, and you can also attest to that, is that in every culture, there are fair and dark people in every culture. You can any of you can negate it. So if you call people white because they're fair, it's equally good, and it's a form of equity to also refer to our own people who are fair as white. Nobody has the monopoly of white, and everybody understood this. So every time we have this type of concept of embracing inferiority complex without even doing anything, we don't have to embrace to be inferior because we're not blacks, we are Africans. Africans are special breed. The concept of civilization started from Africa, and we have a factual historical evidence for this, that this is something that started from Africa. And one of the problems with Africans, this is not about cultural issue. This has nothing to do with cultural issue. We haven't exited the mode of blame game. Every time you touch an African, he's always blaming that Britain came to colonize us, and we Africans are suffering. No. We are still in the mode of blame game. I mentioned that we were sitting on top of the oil, and that's a fact. We didn't even know that we have oil. When we look at the positive side, we're looking at the sides that we're not saying that the positive sides are good, but it's still the positive, and nobody can negate it. These people brought church to us, and many people have exited the stage of poverty through Western education. Deny it or not, it's up to you. You know, this is fact. So when you have benefited from something, it's also equally good to acknowledge it. It doesn't mean that acknowledging it doesn't mean that it is completely good, but it is a positive side. They brought the religion to us, they brought the church to us, they built many schools for us, and they gave us even the legal system of common law is still based on that legacies where it's not even about language. Language is the minor side of the legacy. So we're talking about the main side of the legacy, whereby after studying to become a lawyer, you are still wearing white something on top of your head. How can we get justice, brothers? You're still calling yourself, and you wear the black around you, and you're still calling yourself it's made up of white and black. I completely disagree, and we'll disagree with you tomorrow. So what I'm saying is that when we decolonize ourselves and decolonize our mind, we'll be able to see Everybody has got a tinge of colonization. If you're talking about economy, America was never powerful. I'll give you, because I was mentioning to this professor that Obasanjo was 3 times president of Nigeria, and Okonjo-Iweala is the director general of World Trade Organization. And I told the person, it was recorded. I'm not scared. So one of our problems is fear. It's not about blaming all the time. I don't like the language of blaming West, that they left this. I told the professor, for you to get to the stage where these people are, it will take you 50 years. Even though you're a professor, that you're a professor in England doesn't mean that you can attain this stage without passing through stages. That we need to acknowledge what they've achieved in life. You do not have the temerity to call our 3-time president a slave. So, and this is something we normally use as I told you earlier, that what we are doing is hate speech, because we have a documented evidence about how our society were made. It's only one. I don't want to get into stories. It's only one uneku from Benugwo Dongwo that is called Umwane. So I don't want to get into it, but all of us, we've come to realize what is going on, and people have come out to say hate speech is even worse than slavery, because hate speech is intentional, creating hatefulness against somebody who is righteous. That is even worse than devil, because people tend to believe what they don't ask. How and why? These 2 things, how and why, nobody will ask. So if we talk about economy, brothers, if we talk about economy and colonization, America was colonized by the same English people. The same way they colonize us is the same way they colonize America. If we can decolonize our mind, we need to step up and take responsibility. That's what I'm getting at. We cannot say that our health system is not a positive deposit of colonization. It is. We cannot say the school system, the curriculums, is not a positive side of colonization. They are. We cannot say that our religious way of worshiping is not a deposit of colonization. These things have brought some good things to us. Many of our pastors, many of our reverend fathers have taken the opportunity to study, to become human beings, made human beings within that deposit of colonization. So, is it good or bad? The bad side outweighs the good side. Agreed, but we still have some good side. But then let's go to America. When we talk about Indians, let's make.
I am Mary, you can begin to come home.
I'm landing. I'm just landing. Yeah. So let's talk about. It's not about you can do your cultural festival. You can do your New Year festival, which we're doing in all the parts of the world, and nobody has ever come to anywhere we're celebrating New Year festival and tell us that we have to stop. No, it's our legal right enshrined
in Ghana.
Ghana thing is different. Now it's our legal right enshrined in Equality Act. If you quote Equality Act to any British person, the person will leave you. It's just that people are not aware. And when we're talking about America was colonized. But even though they colonized us, we can't be sitting. What we're doing here is that we're sitting down every day complaining about colonization without even making a way to help ourselves. China developed their own economic model. Before you can become rich in language or economy, you have to have your own model. I can attest to you that from 1960 of independence, of almost all the countries in Africa, we haven't demonstrated that we can lead ourselves. We have no pattern of good political system that is viable. And even though that there are some form of interference, which I acknowledge, that there are form of interference, but that doesn't mean that we can't develop what this guy from Burkina Faso is doing in military form. Is actually what we need to do. And nobody's telling us not to align with Russia and not to align with China. We just intentionally choosing to align with America and the UK, and that's why we are dormant. We are just there on moving and focusing on UK and America all the time. So if we go to China, 40 years ago, Indians are doing their culture, Nigerians are doing their culture. You can do your culture. Nobody's interfering with your culture. But if you go to China 40, 50 years ago, they were so poor. Any talk about China is if China says hello and somebody says ching chong 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 ching chong chong ching wong wong wong. So China said we're not going to be answering ching chong 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 wong. We need to create our own economic model. Brother, it's about decolonizing our mind. So when we create our own economic model, we need to invite them to come for tax-free. Now, China created, before you create an economic model, you must have electricity, you must have running water, you must have all this infrastructure ready because they have it. You cannot invite somebody from America to invest in that place where the grid is falling every day. The electricity grid is falling every day. Nobody will stay there for that long. They need to see that the road is functioning, and then everything is functioning. They will come and invest, and we will be liberated. So this is something you will take responsibility about. It's no longer about colonization or what colonization has done or the ongoing aspect. It's about how we can play in this global setting to liberate ourselves and decolonize our minds. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary. Thank you. Thank you. Jack, I'll quickly come to you with this. Do you think that colonized people, just like Mary pointed out, that's a kind of resistance when you try to put up something different from what you were given? I think that could be seen as a resistance. Do you think that colonized people have resisted imposed cultural practices of colonial powers?
Yes, I would say that some of the colonized people have become resistant, standing up to their rights and standing up to what they believe in. Some of them has actually gone back to their traditional ways of thinking. Looking at the Haitis, the people of Haiti, some of them have gone back to doing their voodoo. Is it good or bad? I don't know. But that's what they were doing before they've been colonized by the Europeans. So that's the thing. So most people believe like, okay, this is what happened. This is not how I want to continue. I want to go back to the way I know it. Some people use like storytelling, like folklores, tell the new generation of how it was back in the day, how you had to stand up for your right. Like we saw what happened when what's that guy that was killed in the middle of the street in America? All the black people came up, fought for the civil
George
rights.
Floyd.
That's it, yeah. So that was the biggest civil rights movement because people are not standing up to, all those things anymore. When we look at colonization, it's mostly we look at it as racism because it is. Because why would you think just because of your skin color, you're more important than, people that are not your skin color? I know that Mary doesn't really necessarily believe in that, So when I'm talking about white, I'm not saying, oh, white, black people, it's the reality. People bleach their skin because they're not proud to be white and black. We're looking, yes, we're all Africans, but we have, people actually look, at themselves and say, okay, this is not what I want, because they have been taught that white as you are, is closer to the best, closer to the, most amazing thing, which I don't believe it is, So whether we accept that or not, that is the reality of things, So although some people pass down their lastly just looking at the traditional wears, people are proudly wearing their African wears or their Indian wears, and sometimes you go out, people be looking at you like, what are they wearing? Some of them will admire and admiration and say, wow, this is nice. But people are starting to look at colonization as that is the thing of the past. Moving forward, we are going to live as we want to live, because there's no superior race. A white man is not superior race. A black man is not. We're all superior in God's eyes, and we're all superior. We should all be superior in each other's, faces or each other's eyes. So I believe that people are fighting back the colonization. People are fighting back. Some people are returning, even in Nigeria, returning to their old traditional ways of, worship. Instead of, and they say, okay, it's a white man religion, Christianity. That's necessarily not what I believe in, but that's what some people believe in. So everyone has their own. So I believe that, people that have been colonized are actually going back and saying enough is enough. Most of them do it underground, most of them do it stubbornly and subtly, but I believe that most people are going back and resisting the imposed of colonization imposed in them, starting from America. I believe America is the biggest colonization people. They colonize all the black people. You see it in films like Roots. You see it in the true life story. It just colonization and slavery work hands in hand, whether we like that or not, because when you colonize people, you marginalize them and they become your slaves. And from slavery, you control everything they do. So America is one of the worst countries that colonize people. I don't believe they've been colonized because till today they still believe they are superior, especially the white men. I don't have anything against white people, by the way, but I'm just saying, in general, that's how it is. So I think that's the only thing I have to say.
Thank you very much, Jack. That was a very good one. Thank you very much. Ms. Amnadi, I want you to, quickly, walk us through this question. The way you see yourself is different from probably the way people see you. And the question is, how has colonialism influenced how former colonized people see themselves? Because so many people have been made to feel little of themselves, see themselves in a context that is smaller or less than who they really are.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, the T. Thank you, the T.
Yeah.
Well, it's a very good question you asked, and I want you to sit. I want you to tighten your seatbelt because
Yeah,
I'm gonna.
you just give me the punch so that I take it
Yes.
and we walk
Okay.
on to the
Okay.
next question.
When my brother Emily was speaking, and he made a good point, and it's very, very good point. But there are other layers to that point, which I will try to explain now. When the colonial master came to our cities, they didn't just come to take the city. They also took our mind. They took the way we think. And that's the point. The point is that in my village now, if I speak English, I am assumed to be smart. If I speak English in my village, without even doing anything, because I'm eloquent in speaking English, I become smart. If you don't think properly, you will not see why that was happening. You will not see that this is a layer of this mind of their own that they have translated to us, that they have transmitted to us, that their language becomes the meter that we measure knowledge. It is a very tricky information, but if you digest it properly, you understand the side I'm coming from. So when my sister on the other side was talking about people bleaching their skins, if you don't think critically, you will not even understand it. Because this mind that they're taking, that inferiority complex that you see on a black man tomorrow, is based on this mind that they have been replaced. This mindset that has been replaced. Because in our culture, there is the way we see beauty before they came. A woman wearing the jigida, standing tall, with a sakari on the other side. That was beauty for us. But when they came, it becomes light skin. And that is what we're talking about. And that is why people start bleaching. Because they want to attain those high hierarchy of beauty. So you see how this has changed our mentality, our whole mentality, or our whole cycle, to feel inferior about ourselves. To feel that our language, our ancestors, did not contribute. Because if you go to the schools today, this history you hear about is America, because that is what they're bringing with these colonial packages. They tell you their story. Your own story should be kept aside. So you know what this translates into? Children growing up thinking that their parents, their fathers, did not contribute anything to history. It is only the history of the UK you'll be hearing. And it becomes assuming that everything we know. I've heard when Emery was saying that they brought education. Education that we taught them some part of the education. We had a standard education before the white man came. Who are the white man? Do you know the African civilization before the white man came? He was in competition with Egypt and all of that. They actually they didn't even progress our education. They distracted it. They pushed us from actually learning from our environment, learning the things that is around us. They moved from that to imposing what we don't even know. If somebody will come to you and tell you what is the word in physics, tell you by to camelin. This could be common herbs that you see in your village. This could be vegetables that you eat. They will call it a name that you will never hear in this world. And you will become confused. And then how do you expect somebody who those things are not natural to, who cannot translate those things that they are studying in school to the natural things they are seeing around themselves? How do you expect that person to become the wizard tomorrow? It's not possible. That inferior complexity will remain in that person forever. They'll carry it wherever they go. They feel within themselves, they without even knowing, unconsciously, they think themselves. I will tell you something else. The first time I moved to the UK, I find I'm a bit shovel to look at the white man in the face, because what it reminds me is Jesus. When I look at them in the face, I feel like, because that is the old movie we see then, where white people are this and that. Because these are the things that have been subdued in our brain, subdued in our mindset, lumped into our brains to feel like, and that is what colonialism brings. That is what colonialism brings. It
Thank you,
makes you
Mr.
to.
Nadi.
Oh, thank you.
Just walk it home. Can you bring it home quickly, please?
I think I've said the psychological
Yeah,
chronicle self-doubt about people. That is the big part of what colonialism brings. That the land is not even anything. The land, they
yeah,
can take the land, but the biggest part of it is the mindset that
yeah.
a typical black man will not trust what his fellow black man. People don't even see how these things correlate. Why people, a fellow black man will not be confident in a other black man in Nigeria to treat them of their illness. But when they fly to America, it may be the same black man that is treating them, but because it's in America. And part of what our brother, sister Jacob said, that a shoe that is made in Aba, regardless of how strong that shoe is, cannot be compared with the one in Nike and Adidas.
Yeah.
And then you don't understand how this is actually related. You don't see how this are correlated to the way you see these people, to the way you see yourself, and how those actually, how those have how the track of those things to our history. Because the track of all those things is when they imported this, and this is why I've mentioned it earlier on. They will not let you to bring yours to this. Just to tell you how brave, and don't get me wrong, I understand that it seems like we are laying so much emphasis on the colonial and all of that. We should be able to find a pattern around ourselves. But that on its own does not exempt these horrible behaviors. Does
Thank
not
you very
exempt
much.
it. Yes, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anya Mary, can you just walk us as quick as possible, because we're already on the other side of the hour. Can you just quickly walk us through this concern? And it's been said that one of the most important parts of colonialism is the disruption of the colonized economy and political development. How true do you think this statement is?
Well, I will agree and disagree. Like I normally state fact. I don't believe in emotions, and although I acknowledge emotions, but fact is eternally fact, and emotion is emotion. Um, every country that has developed, and I want somebody to come up with evidence. Every country that has developed was developed by themselves. Uh, you cannot want to be like an American without decolonizing your mindset of becoming like an American. And I will disagree that America is the worst country in the world. No, they're not. We live in a world whereby everybody's playing their game, and the smartest plays the best game. And nobody tells you not to be smartest. It's your choice. If you want to be smart, it's your choice. But I normally start by, we need to decolonize our mindset. The shoe that was made in Aba can be bought anywhere. But surprisingly, do you know that many people producing shoe in Aba, after producing it, they will still write it made in China? Do you want to blame China? Did China tell you to write made in China in the shoes that you produced in Aba? And the clothes that we're producing about is even written made in China. That part of inferiority complex I mentioned is not something that you begin to blame yourself. I want all of us, when after this podcast, go back home and look at the meaning of black. I was strongly defending this thing at the university until it was passed. I said, look at the meaning of blacks and see what I mean by accepting that you're a black man. I'm not a black man. I will never be a black man. I beg you, if you're calling that you're a black man, just say, I am a black man. Don't generalize. I'm an African, and I'm a Nigerian, and I'm an Igbo man. That is my identity. So what I'm actually saying here is that when we look at what is going on, don't we have the highest number of PhD holders in the whole Africa? Go and research after this podcast. Nigeria has got not highest number of PhD holders. Okay, now, is America telling us not to develop ourselves? Who are those stealing our money in our rotting and corrupt political system? Is it Americans? Is it Americans that are stealing our money? Is it people from UK that are stealing our money? Are they not Nigerians? And do we have the temerity to be blaming people that are fighting for the recourse and the betterment of their own country? So when we talk about bleaching, bleaching is part of that thing I said, because I was strongly emphasizing that we all have dark and fair people in our countries. And that is fact. If you use fairness to define somebody as white, it all depends on what you define. We've got America there before. America was never powerful, but they took time to develop themselves. They decolonized their mindset because the British colonized America and deprived them of everything. But they decolonized their mindset and said, no, we need to play this game. And America started by playing the game of expansion and interference. And America was a champion of this when there was a loophole and a gap. During the Second World War, America came in. That is just the America you're hearing today. Tomorrow, another power is going to come in. That is China. We talk about language. Language is not about forcing your children to speak language. That is irrelevant. How to speak language is not about telling your child that it's going to speak Igbo. No. When your language becomes powerful, the world will begin to learn your language, just as they're learning China today in England. I was learning China, and I'm still in the process of learning China, because it's part of the thing that you learn in England. China has never forced English people to start learning China. It is because China has arrived. For you to arrive, you need to decolonize your mindset. And telling me that nobody, our leadership problem to some extent can be caused because we have allowed ourselves to be used. And when you allow yourself to be used, you don't have to blame anybody. They normally say that we produced Omunigwe, blah and blah and blah during the war, Biafra war. What prevented people who produced Omunigwe to transfer the values to the coming generations? Because we have a dirty and bad culture whereby everybody wants you to come and bow for him if they are progressing. Do you want to blame America for this? Or do you want to blame the UK for this? Japanese were nuked during the Second World War. Has Japanese ever complained to everybody that they were nuked? They went back home to develop themselves. They went back home to decolonize their mindset. In decolonize their mindset, they amplify their voice through economy, through electronics. Before 1980, Japanese was one of the richest countries in the world, even though the media, the mainstream media, were downplaying Japan. But today, almost every family in Nigeria has got Japan because of their radical marketing. Nobody prevents us to market what is made in Aba to all over the world, and nobody's preventing us from using our own culture to market what is made to other parts of the world. When we say, if you see a packaging, let's be honest, if you see a shoe produced by Nike or produced by Adidas, will you buy, forget about sentiment, will you buy a shoe produced in Aba rather than buy, will you compare a shoe produced in Aba to a shoe produced by Nike or Adidas? And will you compare a car produced by BMW or by Mercedes or by Toyota to a car produced by Innocent? Apart from sentiment. So what is it telling us? I want to patronize Innocent, but as much as we need to develop more and to come together and love each other and to establish we need to be expressing our cultural identity through the force of love and unity. That's where we can get it. So if we are saying something, always let us remember that the Italian shoes were in the market back in the days until even Chinese clothes came around with prices. So nobody is telling us not to develop our political system. Nobody's telling us to stop stealing our money. It was a deputy Senate president that went to the prison in America because of our, that is not nothing that concerns anything, because of the way we package ourselves. Our packaging is too low. If you find yourself in a situation whereby Indians were colonized, Malaysians were colonized, the Hong Kongs were colonized, the Vietnams were colonized, Malaysians came and took palm tree from Nigeria, and from palm tree, Malaysians are known as the highest exporter of palm oil. Nobody told you not to develop your palm oil. So it all depends on what you're saying and what we're doing, even in the local side. How are we faring with that culture of intimidation, culture of wickedness? If you are rich, you don't want, if you find opportunity, you don't want another person to get that same opportunity. Is that what you call culture? And then you're coming to say that no, rich people are preventing you from wearing your clothes. I'm still wearing my clothes till today in England, and nobody has ever
begin to
told.
round up, please.
Yeah, I'm rounding up, and nobody has ever told me not to wear your clothes. There's what I call weak mentality. When you have weak mentality, it's difficult to decolonize your mind. Decolonize your mind, because I told you that we are preaching hate towards each other. And when we lack love, we don't have love and unity among us, it's difficult to develop, because what brings the development is unity. Japanese are, even today, what we're doing online today, what Africans are doing online today, come and study in Japan, come and study in England, come and study in America. How many of us are telling the world, come and study in Nigeria? Is it their fault? So what I'm saying here is that it is not about acquiring. PhDs are good. I've written a lot. So I even see how these PhD holders, I said, I've gotten 5 places to study PhD. I haven't been able to stop, because when I see the way people with PhD behave, I begin to ask myself questions, but I'm still going to do it when I find time. So what I'm saying today is that we still have time to play our own role and decolonize our mindset. If you go to Jamaica, Jamaica is quite close to America. America to Jamaica is about a couple of hours. If you go to Haiti, Haiti is one of the dirtiest countries in the world. Nobody told them. You look at Haiti, look at Canada, look at America. If you go to other countries, you see the deposits of the mindset, refusing to decolonize your mind. So I think the more we begin to decolonize our mindset, the more it's going to help us to see the bad side of colonization, but also a way that we have the power, we have the capacity to stand up now and rise against all this cock and bull gibberish all over the places that we can rise. Look at our governor now defected, and tomorrow he's still going to win. Many people are defecting to one party. We're forming one party system. Tomorrow we're still going to start blaming England and start blaming America. America's not telling people to defect. It's your choice. So whatever system you want to build, it's your choice. And then Burkina Faso, like I say a lot of things about Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso has made it possible that if you're going to the court, you're not going to wear that rubbish white and black. And when you're going to the bank, you're going to wear cultural clothes. These things are possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mary. Thank you. Please, I could hear the emotion rising there. Thank you very much. Jack, quickly to you, and I'd like you to quickly run through this. One of my colleagues said that, anyway, let's stop that. But racism and discrimination have been identified as some impacts of colonialism. Do you think this statement is true?
Yeah, to be fair, I think 100% is true. Like I mentioned earlier on, racism and colonization work hand in hand, because for you to colonize somebody and see them as low and below you, that's just racism anyway. So the colonizers always classify people as, people with the, whether we like it or not, people with the white skin, people with commonly placed on top of any Africans, especially during the slave trade, and even sometimes still now. I remember watching a program. Um, a black man was trying to buy a house in America. This was last year. He went to buy a house. He went to the open room and everything. You know what they told him? They told him, "Oh, I'm sorry, this house is actually sold. You're not able to purchase it," because it was in a white neighborhood. the estate agent or the real estate person said to him it was sold. So you know what he did? He got his white friend and said, please, I would like to purchase this house. Can you go and do it for me? So, you know, he went to the same place and lo and behold, the house is available. And the white man was able to purchase that, pretending to be the black man, got all the details of the black man, and he purchased that same house that was supposedly sold out, that was supposedly not available. He purchased that on behalf of the black guy. So after all this, then the black guy went away and said thank you to the real estate agent. I said thank you for my house. They were shocked, like it's not for you, it's for. He goes, yes, I sent my friend, and you know this is what happened. So whether we like it or not, this is the reality of things. That is just the reality because at the end of the day, the colonizers, you know, it's getting better now, maybe, but they see European people, white people on top of black and brown people. When I'm talking about brown people, we're talking about the Latinos because obviously America, and we're talking about Indians and all those things. No matter what you do, if you was it not a few weeks ago, they done a march in the in London, and they were chasing all the Muslim people. They were chasing all the, you know, non-black, non-whites, and telling them go back to your country. I mean, most people are born here, so their country is here. Their parents' country might not be here. So yeah, so I believe that the colonization, racism, and discrimination working hand in hand in colonization. In South Africa, there came a time where there was apartheid, where in their own country, Africa, as it says, white people took over and said, okay, kicking away black people that owns the whole country. So, you know, so as much as we don't want to admit it, you know, you know, we shouldn't carry it in our head and say, okay, we're never going to proceed, we're never going to do better. Yes, we all need to fight to do better, all need to fight to, you know, get away from discrimination. But whatever happens, discrimination and colonization, they work in hand. You know, even in the like I mentioned before, in some countries, the languages, people look at you funny when you start speaking languages. You know, yes, you know, like Onyemere said, yeah, no one is forcing you on to do this or that, but you know, it's so you know the subtle racism, like you know, go back to your country. That's racism. They're not stopping you from wearing your clothes, but the way they would look at you, not that me, I don't care. You know, I don't care what they say or what anybody says, but this is what happened. So, in conclusion, for me, racism, colonization, they work in hand, and discrimination, they work hand in hand with the colonizers. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jack. Mr. Nadi, I'd like you to take a look at the second contribution by Azwanoka. You speak to that, then give us your conclusion quickly, please.
All right, let me scroll up and see. All right, the second, yeah, legacy of colonialism.
No,
Colonialism.
he said we have continued to negotiate our identity between imposed Western values and
Yeah,
suppressed indigenous heritage. Can you speak to
absolutely,
that and then give us your
absolutely,
conclusion?
absolutely. This is actually a situation of hit is that what they say, hit the nail on the head. I think as well have stripped the truth that this is exactly what we are doing. We continue to negotiate our own life with the point. Let me just put it this way. Let me explain. Let me give a bit of analogy to this as well. It's like you take your goods to the shop, to the markets to sell, and then you are struggling in between selling for your those who doesn't even care about you, selling their own product over yours. If we look at this, if we are able to look, I just want people to think. That's the only problem. If we understand this tradition and culture as tangible goods, as goods, this is absolutely what goods is. Forget about all this economy. They want you to go and do PhD and get nothing else is that grows GDP, grows economy, apart from tradition and culture. That is what builds it. You can quote me anywhere and you can challenge me if you dare. Activities within the society, goods, what you transfer to somebody else, and what you get in return. This is just what it is. You are dressing. I was saying to somebody how much these suits that we wear today, even the what do you call these things that lawyers wear in their hair? What I can't forget. I forgot the name.
The wig.
The wigs that they wear. If I tell you the story of how people start wearing wigs, you'll be surprised. It was an Englishman that haven't got hair on him because he has to come, and because not having hair was kind of humiliating. He asked somebody to go and cut from the horse tail so that he can use that. He came, delivered a good speeches, and starting from them, it becomes a culture. And the Africans now, if you are a lawyer and you don't have those hair, you don't have those wigs, you are not a lawyer. You see how this culture have been transferred to tangible things in our society. That people may even export these things from China. They can export these wigs from America. But it's somebody's culture. It's somebody's antecedent, events, experience. Something like as natural as that our village did a town hall meeting and we decide something and we feel like this thing is now acceptable in our village. And we start transferring it to Zuka, to Umaya. That this yam and beans that we're eating, we transfer it automatically just translating into us producing more of those things. And when we start producing more of those things, there will be a lot of economic activity that goes around those things. That is what is that domestic goods and products that is in your society. So
your last on this.
That's my last. That's my last. So when we are negotiating these things with somebody else's goods and services, there is no way we will strive as a society. And just to add a little bit to what my brother Emery have said, and Emery is not wrong in what he's narrated. This is another topic, and we'll dive into that when the time comes. You know, I don't spare my truth on all of that. But first of all, we need to understand the causal link. What actually causes those inferiority complex? What causes those people that are doing all of those things? What are the reasons? And part of it is this colonialism, this influence on your culture, on the way you think. That is what is being translated into that man that goes into the government house tomorrow. It's part of it. Because if we have stick to our culture, I will tell you that a man that sworn on an oath with Only and Enugu or Ezata will not go into the office and mess up. But they're messing up because they know this. So thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mary, quickly too, can you speak to the Azuanoka's first contribution, and then give us your closing on that?
I'm just trying to see the chart here.
Is that legacies of colonialism persist through what I call cultural hybridization?
Yeah. I mentioned it before, whereby we blend Western ideals with our African ancestral roots, and I think it's been a wonderful discussion. But as far as I'm concerned, with all the education I've acquired, I don't have theoretical education. I completely disagree with anything tagging Africa black or anything black man. There's something like black man. It's something we've assumed, and words are too powerful. The moment you assume some certain words, it will begin to work on you. I still reaffirm that we should go home and look at the meaning of black and come back again during our next discussion. I know that we are used to this thing, but these are the ways we internalize some certain concepts that are destroying us. And when we look at, I was just trying to write down a couple of things. Our brother and Jack, our brother Sammy and Jack, they've spoken well. But what I'm saying here, I still say it, and without any form of regret, that we need to decolonize our mind. We need to continue to amplify our voices. So it's just the way that they do it in movies or African Hollywood, so that we can reclaim our own narrative that is against any form of colonization, because the major colonization is in the mind. It reminds me the first trials I went when I was playing football, and it was in record. I ended up scoring 45 goals. I said it before. I came, and we have an Argentine. I'm saying this thing before all of you. We have an Argentine. I know how much they respect them. We have somebody from Romania. He has got a red passport. We've got some. The Argentine guy has got red passport, and the other guy from Italy has got red passport. They're good players. But I said to myself, I will reclaim this position. That's what I said to myself. And in the end, that was the city that made the first document for me, because what I said to myself, I was able to reclaim it. I do understand that some of these things that we're saying is affecting how we internalize the hybridization in what we do, because we're not able to define what we want. It's about defining the concept we want. And as I said, nobody will define your concept for you. If we go today and say that we're not going to wear wig or this gown to the court, it will stop. And you also will agree with me that this specific gown and wig is affecting our judiciary system, because we're still not getting the justice we deserve, even though with all the education out there. So what am I saying? During the COVID-19, if you could recall, when the British people put up one policy that the flights are not going to be flying to Nigeria or to South Africa responded, and immediately that policy was quashed. And then South Africa responded, and Nigeria responded. Go and read about it during COVID-19, because Nigeria said no flight is flying directly to England. So whatever you're going to do in this life is based on your own definition and what you think about yourself. If you feel inferior because you want to feel inferior, because you think that colonization has made us us and they, it's up to you. But if you stand and challenge some myths and say, this is who I am, I bet you people will respect you and people will start respecting you. But if you're still saying, oh, I'm scared, and all of those things, what about some people who have passed through this hate speech? Would they have died? No, because when people realize that it was hate speech walking around them, you are part of human, you're part of everything, you're part of, but still some setting of hate speech is still walking around you. Is it not people that went to England to study that started this? Is it not them? Or are you not aware that there's still people who went to school that are doing this thing? But when they come to England or America, they'll say, oh, there's racism. When you go to Germany, if you see anybody in Germany or in England in 1960, they write it boldly on every door: no Irish here, no dog here, and no black man here. That is what I'm telling you. Go and start. When you study and make some certain research, you will begin to know the reality, not emotional history, but about the fact. So what I'm saying is that nobody will ever say that colonization is completely good. But as far as we are talking about the legacy of colonization and its ongoing impact on our cultural identity and what we express, we still have those tinge of positive impact, because they're still there. We don't have a legal system. Our legal system is still based. We are complaining, but despite all the education, our legal system is still based on that colonial legacy. So we I think acknowledging them and still acknowledging it as a positive side is still not bad. I think we need some form of true repentance and restorative justice to be able to heal from this colonization. We need to decolonize our mind. We need to continue to decolonize our mind. We need to continually and continuously be decolonizing our mind to be able to assume a voice, a collective voice that will initiate a good narrative capable of fighting or resisting this rampant or random expression of colonization. We are in 2025. And as far as we're in 2025, we need to tell ourselves the truth that every country that is developed was developed by their citizens. America was developed by Americans. Britain was developed by British. Germany was developed by Germans. And we need to stand up and take responsibility apart from complaining. We need to exit the mode of complaining all the time, because with complaining, we can never find the true balance. We need to tell ourselves the truth and acknowledge that we have also done wrong. And we have also not been able to lead ourselves We don't have any good political system. We don't have any good leadership system. We don't have any good followership system. This is not about blaming colonization. We still have ourselves to blame in some certain areas and be able to stand up with dignity and take responsibility to fix our own society. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much. Thank you very much. Jack, are you still there? Hello, Jack.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like you to just quickly speak on what Udoka posted something about learning and unlearning, and then we just did you see that many people today are still trying to unlearn what was imposed on us and connect with the original identity? Cultural expression now has now become a form of healing and resistance. Did you see that?
Yeah, I'm just trying to scroll up to the
Yeah, Udoka, Ojak Udoka. Could you just speak to that and give us your last for today, maybe in 1
okay,
minute?
many people today are still trying to unlearn what was imposed
Yeah.
on them and reconnect with their original identity. Cultural expression has now become a form of healing already. Yeah, I definitely agree with him. Many people are going back to their roots, you know, unlearning all those things that the colonizers says that is what will make you this and what will make you that. So people are unlearning. For example, most women now, most people I think I don't know the figures, but I'm just saying most people now don't relax their hair. They're going back to their root. They're growing natural hair. They're starting natural hair. You know what I mean. So they, they're going back to their originality, which is good because it shows you that, you know, we are still something you know. So even on learning all those things that were put on us to say, okay, this is how this is supposed to be. This is how, we're just on learning it. I mean, it's not going to take a day or a month. It might take a year, it might take years, but we are going to get to that place where we are happy with ourselves as Africans, as blacks, as whatever we are, we're happy to with ourselves and not look at other places and say, "Oh, I want to be this, I want to be that." Just cultural. Bringing the culture. Most of the TikTok videos, you know, most people are trying. Like for example, African food. You see them eating the gisi and pounded yam, complimenting on it. Those were not possible before, but they have been put on map. So all these things can make a difference if we keep promoting ourselves, loving, our culture. I'm not just talking about Nigerian culture, I'm talking about Africa as a whole. We are going to make the places better. So yeah, in conclusion, I like that point that he says many people are trying to unlearn what was imposed on them. So you have to learn to unlearn. So the more as you learn it, you can unlearn it. So yeah, I I believe that.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and thank you
Hey,
guys for
Mr. T,
today's.
Mr. T.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
before you conclude, I'm not adding something, but our son is here. Come, I just wanted to ask him his name. I just want you to ask him his name. He's here. Could you please ask him his name?
What is your name?
So with the cat as a hot Tiffany Dago, but Daga Arago.
Yeah. But
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah, that's an Igbo name, and then I know that your dad is really trying to walk you through that process is just talked about here. Thank you very much, Onyemere, for the wonderful work you're doing. Thank you. Jebubedike,
Thank you too.
I want to thank you for learning, and I hope that you will learn well and pass it on to your own kids and kin. Thank you very much, Onyemere. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you,
Thank you,
brother.
Sam. And then I just want to quickly say that it's been one discussion that has brought up a whole lot of contributions. Kingsley has said that without colonization, we will still be naked savages in the village. Thank
Okay.
God for Western civilization. He also said,
Okay.
please tell me exactly what the difference between colonized African countries and non-colonized countries like Ethiopia.
Okay.
That is his opinion. But I just want to say that today has we've been able to come up with some of the things we think can help us to in our movement forward, in our history going forward. That we need to, if we want to play seriously on the international scene, there is need for us to decolonize our mind. There is need for us to amplify our values. There is also need for us to unlearn what has been learned over the years and what has been imposed over the years. And it is also important that we define certain things for ourselves and not allow whatever we are imposed on us to still continue to have a sway over our heads like the sword of Damocles. It is important that we come to that understanding. And once we come to that understanding, we'll be able to develop some other things for ourselves going forward. And it's been a wonderful discussion today. And I want to thank you guys for having put everything down here on the floor. And for all those who chimed in with their contributions, thank you very much. For all those who still have some negative views about how we think about ourselves, there's always room for improvement. People will continue to improve, and I believe that African countries, all colonized countries, are on that wheel of forward movement. Having said that, I want to thank all of us and say let's have the best of the coming week. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Sammy. Take care.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Bye.